This is the EWN Podcast Network.
Welcome to Late Boomers, our podcast guide to creating your third act with style, power, and impact. Hi, I'm Cathy Worthington.
And I'm Mary Elkins. Join us as we bring you conversations with successful entrepreneurs, entertainers, and people with vision who are making a difference in the world.
Everyone has a story, and we'll take you along for the ride on each interview, recounting the journey our guests have taken to get where they are, inspiring you to create your own path to success. Let's get started. Hello, I'm Cathy Worthington. Welcome to Late Boomers. Today, Mary and I are going to tell you all about our travels during the holidays.
And I'm Mary Elkins. I find that people travel for so many different reasons, and they get different experiences out of it. I'm always curious why people go where they go. So, Cathy, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I think for each place I go, there might be a different reason or different, maybe because of the people you're going with. Or like the first place I went during December was a road trip to Paso Robles, California, which for people who don't know the state is kind of considered central California. But if you look at the map, I guess it would fall closer to the
It,
southern part, but it's
it's central.
halfway between LA and San Francisco. So I did a road trip with my daughter and son-in-law and my son-in-law's mom, who's like a sister to me. We're all close friends, and we took our dog, my dog, Ringo, and we did one of the highlights of the trip for sure. We got a cute little rural Airbnb way out in the country, but very near all the good wineries on the west side of town. And we
Mm.
did a wine tasting tour. We had a Mercedes limo, very luxurious, pick us up. It's a company called SLO Safe Ride that does the wine tasting tours. You have to plan your own itinerary. You have to
Ah,
book all your winery reservations ahead of time. But it was dog friendly, so we could bring Ringo and he could go to the wineries because all the wineries have the tasting and the food and everything outdoors. So it was brisk out, but clear weather. It was beautiful. We visited first the Justin Winery. I love their wines, and what a beautiful setting.
tell
But
me.
then we went to Dow Winery, and that is the one not to miss because you're not going there specifically for the wines, but for the most beautiful place, one of the most beautiful places you can go anywhere. It has more than a 180-degree view. You're on top of a mountain. You wouldn't even believe it's there. It's so close to the town of Paso Robles. It's on top of a mountain. It's so beautiful. They've done a
Mm.
beautiful um, land, landscaping area all outside to sit out with tables and chairs looking at the view. And it's just not to be missed. And then
Mm.
the third place we went, you can only squeeze 3 wineries in a 5-hour tour because you got to drive to them.
Yeah.
And I picked ones that weren't too far, but still you're winding on some roads and stuff. To Justin is kind of a windy road. And so the last one we went was a more like family run, family owned, family on site, where they have a bulldog on site and a bunch of cats. So they warn you when you're coming with a dog that they have a dog off leash that's friendly, and you can only come with your dog if your dog's friendly. They warn you ahead
Mm.
of time. It's called
Did you
Whale
bring
Bum.
Ringo?
Oh yeah, he came on the whole trip. He came on the tour. He was a gentleman in the limo, and he went under the table at each tasting. He was a good boy. And then one of the days we lunched and tasted at another winery called Tooth and Nail, which is built like a castle. It
Oh,
has a moat around it, and you walk across a big drawbridge drawbridge entry kind of thing. And it's the architecture you go there for. It's really fun, and they have some beautiful space inside. They do a lot of weddings there and stuff.
hmm.
And then the restaurant scene in Paso Robles has gotten really amazing. We read about on the way up, but did not visit. They now have a Michelin star restaurant. I just
Wow.
don't know where that is. because my sister, my son-in-law's mother, was reading about it, and I don't know, we never ended up seeing that one. But I always have to visit the restaurant BL Brasserie, which is Bistro Laurent. Laurent is the owner chef, and he's brilliant, and it's all French food. It's a gorgeous place. We did Christmas Eve there, and
Oh,
a
fun.
fun.
What did you have? What was your
What did
dinner?
I had duck because I always get duck
Yes.
if they have it, and it wasn't even on the menu, but they had it. And so
Whoa.
I was glad I asked. But the night before, there was a real fun restaurant that I always like to visit in Templeton. Templeton is a little teeny tiny uh, rustic town that's preserved. In other words, they won't let a McDonald's go in or anything that ruins the businesses that are in there have to be in the original old buildings. So that's called McPhee's Grill in Templeton. And we did discover that the wine prices there were really inexpensive. Like, for instance, you would pay this, we were paying the same for a bottle of Austin Hope Cabernet, which is my current favorite Cabernet. And it was the
Hmm.
same price as you would pay for that bottle at Costco. And restaurants usually
Really?
have like a massive markup. So I thought that was a
Massive.
great deal. And then
Mm,
we did have another kind of somber reason for visiting Paso Robles. My husband and I built a ranch there, as you know, Mary, that we had for 20 years. And
yeah.
since it was on the market, we got permission to go on site to sprinkle my husband's ashes on site at the ranch. And we picked several different trees and we played a little music and just went as a family and did that. And it was a little melancholy, but really it was perfect for him because we bought that land, raw land, in 1981, and we built that ranch. And so um, we
Oh,
we sold it 20 years ago, but still it was our place. We put all the buildings on it that are there, and raised
I know
horses.
you had an observatory there too.
Yeah, an observatory on the top floor of the house. Still there, of
Yeah.
course, because once you've built a roof that opens up, you won't be remodeling that, I don't think. So that was my wonderful road trip to Paso Robles. It was 4 nights. It was just perfect to be with family over Christmas. And now,
Yeah.
Mary, I wanted to ask you about some of your reasons for traveling and what you did on your vacation.
Yeah, I had an amazing trip to Europe. And for me, it was great. For me, and I think for most people, there was that time where we all stayed close to home during the height of the pandemic. And I was ready for a new adventure. And I wanted to do something I had never, ever done before. So I thought, what was on my bucket list? And two of the cities that I went to, Budapest and Prague, were on my bucket list
Hmm.
as well as a river cruise, and I had never done a river cruise. So I booked the Christmas market cruise with AMA Waterways, that's AMA, and AMA's based
Hmm.
in California, so technically I could pick up the phone and from here in Los Angeles and give them a local call. And this trip started in Budapest in Hungary, and then it went to Bratislava in Slovakia, and then Vienna, Weissenkirchen, and Melk and Linz in Austria, and Passau and Wilshofen and Regensburg in Germany. And then I took a motor coach to the Czech Republic. But each place had its charm and its beauty. The architecture of every village and city was extraordinary. Um, in Budapest, I have to say one thing about Budapest. It was cold and it was gloomy and rainy, but the architecture is magnificent. Budapest is known for its spas, but because of the pandemic, I wasn't about to book any time in a spa. And I was
Yeah.
only there for like a day and a half because the thing about river cruises is you touch on each place and you get a day or maybe two in
Yeah.
each place and then you move
Sure.
on. But
I've
um
always wanted to
but
go to Vienna.
oh,
And
Vienna, I want to go back
did you
because
love
I
Vienna?
I I love Vienna.
Can't
Always
scratch
have
the
loved Vienna.
surface.
Well, I went to a concert in Vienna and
Oh,
this it
classical or what?
it was well, Mozart and Strauss, it was very Viennese,
Yeah.
and, um, and it was amazing because the lead violinist was an acrobat with his fingers. That violin, the way he played it was amazing, and also they had opera singers come out and sing with them and dancers. So that was a real highlight of my trip. And also the food in Hungary, in Budapest, was outrageously good. I went to this fabulous restaurant called the Parisi Passage, where it's modeled after the French passageways that go from one street to another, the indoor passageways, and that's Art Nouveau. And dinner was joined by a soft saxophone and a guitar playing beautiful music. And then from and also another restaurant I went to in Budapest was called the New York Cafe. And it's this gorgeous cafe that it wasn't anything like I've been to in New York, but it was like a
So
place I had been in
strange how
France.
strange they called it that.
Yeah, I actually don't know the history to it, and I have to read up on that, but, it's absolutely gorgeous. And then, from Budapest, I went to Bratislava, and I'd never been to Slovakia, and that was great fun, and I got lost on the streets there and walked around and had a great time shopping. And then, of course, Vienna and, Weiskirchen and Melk. Melk has an abbey there that was built in oh, geez, I think before the 1400s, and it had never been destroyed, and there's as much gold in there, I think, as there is in the Vatican. It was just beautiful.
Wow.
And then, of course, every city had its Christmas markets, and we went as a group, from the cruise, and we went shopping, and they served wine, and you shop for the crafts of the area, and, then pass on Wilshofen and Regensburg. Um, and then I just I find traveling is just a great way to discover new places and meet new people. And, after my husband died and then my dog died, I decided I didn't want to be home for Christmas. And I think most people who travel alone will always make friends along the way. And I did on the cruise. But also, I wanted to know whom I had become in these last 2 years. And it was a great way to meet myself as well as meet new people. So, Kathy, tell me what you did. I know you went away after New Year's.
Well, yeah, and I kinda had a similar type of motivation. Since my husband had passed away, I decided to do something on my own that we used to do together, which is go to New York City. 'Cause I love New York City and I hadn't been in many years, and we used to go all the time, and my favorite thing to do is go see Broadway shows. And I have a
Mm,
friend that lives near in Connecticut, and he could meet me, and I have a friend who lives in the city of New York, and he met me for a couple things. And my friend who was coming in from Connecticut said, "Oh, you gotta stay at this little boutique hotel on 36th Street and 9th Avenue, which is called Stay Pineapple," which is the funniest. It's called Stay Pineapple, comma, an Artful Hotel. So all of
that's
their
such a funny
even
name.
even if you put it in the taxi or the limo or anything, it comes up, comma, an artful hotel. It's very funny. Their branding is really clear. And when you check in, the rooms are really tiny, but so clean. And it's so arty. It's really artsy. Like the bathroom is teeny tiny, but the sink has a gorgeous multicolored glass bowl. Everything is very artsy, very pretty.
Hmm.
And they put a little toy dog on your bed. And they say you can
Aw.
adopt him and bring him home if you want, or you can follow him on Instagram. And it's
Did you?
it was no, I didn't bring him home. You can adopt him for $25, but I decided not to adopt him. I have a lot of dog toys here. I should have brought him for my dog Ringo to play with, but I walked all over the city, which is kind of like what you did with the strange cities. But for me, it was kind of like coming home. I was walking around, seeing what was different in the city, and walking into the New York Public Library. That's a gorgeous
Mm.
building, and they happen to have a Virginia Woolf exhibit, so I went to that. And then
Whoa.
I walked. I walked a lot the first day, and the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree was still up. But
Aw.
all the Saks windows were all put away. There weren't any Saks Fifth Avenue windows to see. I wanted to see those
Hmm.
close up, but they were put away. I saw 4 Broadway shows in 4 days, which is pretty typical for me. I have been known to see uh, one more than that if I do a matinee and an evening on the same day. I didn't do that. But I also saw a cabaret show with my friend Larry at 54 Below, which is a real cute club. And but the first night I was there was the highlight because I saw Hugh Jackman, my total idol, my favorite performer. We got to get him for our podcast one day. That's my dream. And he was with Sutton
I'll go
Foster.
for that.
Yeah, they were starring it together in Music Man. It was a fabulous production. Like I couldn't even dream that the production could be that good of such an old show. But when you make it fresh and have somebody like Hugh playing the lead, he's just incredibly charming. It blew my mind. And then my friend Larry
Mm.
came in from Connecticut and we went to see MJ, which is Michael Jackson, all Michael Jackson music. Larry and I didn't love it. The people who attended love it. The box office is going berserk, but it's just that I knew Michael Jackson and they didn't warm it up. They didn't really tell the story of Michael Jackson. He has so much more going than what they mentioned. So it's done like a bio, but it's not really very biographical in a way because there's so much left out. But anyway, on to the next night, I saw Leah Michelle in Funny Girl, and she's born to play that role. Oh my God, it was a
I'm
fabulous
sure, yeah.
production. There, but and you know what she's done for Broadway? When I went to the bathroom at intermission and the line for the ladies' room was snaking back and forth like a ride at Disneyland, everybody in that line was in their 20s and 30s. And I thought, these are not usually the people who buy tickets to Broadway, but those
Hmm.
are Leah Michelle's fans. Instead of all the gray haired people, all the women that were there were really young because Leah Michelle has all these young fans from all her years
Yeah.
on Glee. But she was born to play that Fanny Bryce part. And then the next day, I was going to have breakfast with my friend Fred, and I discovered that Into the Woods was playing. So we kind of cut our trip to the Metropolitan Museum very short. And I grabbed a ticket at the box office right before showtime and saw Into the Woods. I
And you
had some
liked
of
it?
yeah, I loved it. I had some meals alone, which is interesting when you travel alone. When you're not on a
Mhm.
cruise where you're sitting with other people, you are at your
Right.
table alone, which enables you to eavesdrop on other people if you can. It's kind of interesting to see what people are ordering and see what people are doing and see who's with other people, which is all stuff that you wouldn't notice if you're with your friends. And I had
Right.
some meals with Larry and Fred, and I had some real fun times. And I had great weather, and I had no trouble getting cabs. So really, I had a very easy trip. My flights were on time. But boy, for people that haven't been to New York, it's an exciting place. But there are so many people. So even when you're coming from LA and you're
Yeah.
used to traffic jams or whatever, you have never seen so many people walking on the sidewalk. You can
Yeah.
barely move on any street. You walk up 8th Avenue, you walk on 5th Avenue, you walk on Avenue of the Americas. Everything was mobbed. And I went to Central Park. I just had a really good time. And so
Yeah.
everybody should DM me on Instagram if you want some suggestions for fun things to do. I'm a fountain of knowledge. But Mary,
Yes.
tell me more about, what you discovered on your river cruise or what you thought was a big highlight for you.
Oh, there were so many highlights. The cruise itself was a highlight. It had fabulous service.
Tell us about the boat itself.
It's actually I had seen that boat. We docked near the other boats from some of the other cruises, and the AMA boat that I was on was the only one that I saw that had actual balconies that you could go and sit on and
Mhm.
or stand on and look at the view as you're cruising
Oh,
by.
yeah, I love
It
that.
I had a wonderful room. It had both a balcony and a big window. And every night they put a chocolate on my pillow. I had a king size bed and a big bathroom with a beautiful shower. And it was very, very comfortable. We had a waiter. I sat at the same table every night because I made a friend. Her name's Brenda, and she lives in Dallas. And we sat at the same table every night because we had the same waiter, and he was from Romania, which is basically Transylvania. And I swear he talked just like Dracula. But he would give us, if we wanted two
Hopefully, he didn't
meals,
serve you blood.
no. But what he did do is if we wanted two desserts, we got it. If we wanted two entrees, we got it. I mean, it was uh,
Plenty of wine.
breakfast was Oh, we had wine. It was just amazing. And on the boat, because it was a Christmas cruise, they had a Christmas tree and they had a Hanukkah decoration because it was both holidays were celebrated. And so they had Santa come and Santa gave us all gifts. And one night we had a Christmas tree decorating party in the lounge where we had live music and we all sang carols and we danced. We had a fabulous time. And on the roof of the boat, they had a track that if you walked around 16 times, you had walked a mile. So I got up to 12 one night, but it was so cold for the most part, especially in Budapest and going towards
Well,
Vienna. It was
especially if you're
really
doing it
cold.
at night. You were walking
Well,
on the deck at night on the top.
yeah. Yeah, usually
And
it was
is that
before
when the boat
dinner.
is moving or not?
Either, both, you could do both.
Yeah.
They had a swimming pool up there that you had to be Swedish to go into. The pool itself was warm, I guess. I didn't even put my toe in because it was really cold. And then, but the boat itself was just great, and there were not that many people on it. Maybe under 200, maybe 130, 140. I think they must
Mhm.
have had a crew member for every, and that includes all of the people who were the boat crew as well as the servers and
Oh, yeah,
everybody
I'm
on the ship.
sure.
But they must have
Yeah.
had one per person. But so the boat was beautiful. And there was an elevator, which I never took because after eating so much, which you do on a cruise, because they had breakfast, they had dinner, they had cocktails before dinner, they had where they served food and drink, and then they had, of
So
course,
fun.
after
And
dinner.
if you wanted a lunch, you were probably off the boat walking
We were
around
off the boat.
in a
Yeah,
town, and then you guys would find a
right.
restaurant. Would you go
Yeah,
together with other people?
yeah,
Walk
yeah.
walk around with
But
other people or just your
we
friend Brenda
walked
or what?
everywhere. There were very few. There were in Budapest. We did do a bus tour off the boat, but for the most part, we got right off the boat in the freezing cold in our gloves and our hats. And I had to buy a fur hat. Well, fake fur hat
You
in
had to. I love it.
I did. Well, it was so cold
I'm
that
sure
I
you
had
brought
to
a
buy a
hat.
hat. I did bring a
I
hat,
think I
but
lost my hat on my New York trip. I think on the last day I lost it. I don't think I got home with my hat, but it wasn't fur. But
well, it was
I'm
so
sad.
cold. And I actually brought gloves, but I had to bring other gloves. I brought hand warmers, the kind you wear in your gloves when you go skiing.
Oh,
So,
good.
but but it was really really a fun trip. I have to say, I did talk about the food and the restaurants in Budapest. We also did a very interesting tour in Budapest, which was a tour of the Roman ruins, and that was very educational because I really was not aware that the Romans had settled in Budapest at one time, way back when.
Wow, they were everywhere in Europe,
They were, but they
all
were
over
not in
Europe.
Prague. They were not in Prague, but they were in Budapest. And these ruins were, for the most part, stones on the ground. But then they did have a house that they had reconstructed that would have been the kind of place that the Romans lived in. And of course, they had aqueducts that were built there and irrigation, and they were a very, very advanced society. But also in Slovakia, I loved shopping there. They had some very high-end shops on some streets there. I just love to get lost in these towns.
Well,
Um,
I'm glad you didn't really get lost. You came back to us.
no, I call it wandering. I
Yeah.
just wandered
Luckily,
down the
you
street.
always found your way back to the boat
I always found
eventually.
my way back. I have to say the biggest highlight of my trip was Prague. Maybe because the weather was warmer and I just wandered on the streets there.
But we should say you can't get to Prague from the boat. You took
Oh, yeah,
a
we took a
a
I
bus.
did say
Yeah,
we
motor
took a
coach.
motor coach there. It's about a
Yeah.
5-hour drive from the Danube. Um,
Ah,
so it was a drive, and on the way there, we stopped in Regensburg, which is Germany, and I did a little wandering there, and I walked down a street and that had antique stores and antique jewelry stores, and I walked into an antique jewelry store and I tried on some beautiful Victorian pearl and amethyst earrings, which I didn't buy. Maybe I should
were
have.
they trying to get you to buy them? Were they pushy about it a little
No,
bit?
not pushy at all.
They were letting
Not
you put
pushy
them
at all.
on.
Well, yeah. But, they weren't
Sounds like
pushy
they
at
were
all.
very nice.
They were I have to say the Czech people and the Slovakian people, well, the Slovaks, I'm not sure what they call themselves now, I should find out, but, I loved
Mhm.
them. They had so much joy. I really liked the atmosphere, the feel of both towns, even though they're split up with, the Czech Republic and Slovakia. But, they had I just felt their sense of humor, and I just really, really enjoyed being there. I did do something in Prague because Prague was not bombed in World War II, so all the buildings in the old town are still standing that have been there for centuries. And I took a tour of the Jewish area there, which during World War II, 77,000 Jews were rounded up and taken to the gas chambers. But and normally a ghetto is the poorest area of town. Now it's the wealthiest, most expensive part of town. But all of the synagogues that were there then are still standing. And I went into a couple. One is the Sephardic or Spanish temple, absolutely beautiful, with gold and a huge organ and lots of wood and lit beautifully. And they have glass display cases that have the stories of a lot of the Jews that lived there, and many had enlisted in the army to fight the Germans, which I found interesting. And then there was one of the oldest temples in the world, also in Prague, and on that part of that temple, they had built a modern um, complex, very small one, like a small adjunct building. And on the walls there, they have the names of all 77,000 people that had died.
Wow.
And that was really interesting for me. And then there's a graveyard attached to it that I didn't take pictures of because my camera had died in my
Oh.
phone. Boohoo. But anyway,
Oh. Mm.
but that was so interesting. And then also, there were just so many highlights to this trip. Wine tasting in one of the smaller towns where apricot is one of their main staples, and so we tested and tasted
So
all kinds
apricot
of
wine?
apricot wines
Oh,
and
strange.
apricot schnapps in the morning. So
Why not? Yeah, sounds
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. So it sounds like you wandered the streets of New York too. Did you?
I did. I did. I stopped at Magnolia Bakery and got banana pudding
Ooh,
to go, their specialty. And yeah,
ooh.
took a picture with the Rockefeller Christmas tree. I'll put it on Instagram very soon. And so should we wind up and Do we feel like we've covered a lot of our tra- travels, not troubles, travels and
Travel.
happiness and discoveries? We made so
Yeah,
many
yeah. I mean, there
discoveries.
was so much more I'm sure that both of us
Oh,
can talk
sure.
about, but that'll be another time. I think if we just allow ourselves to wander, there are so many discoveries that we can make in the world, and even at home. Just take a little drive or a walk and look at your neighborhood and look for something new, and I think it'll make for a much richer life. There you go.
Thank you. Words of wisdom. And one of these days, Mary and I are going to do the Late Boomers podcast from Paris. One of these days,
Yes.
that's on our bucket list. And we want to
Yes.
remind our listeners to follow us on Instagram at Late Boomers and at I am Cathy Worthington and at I am Mary Elkins. And please now remember to go on YouTube and subscribe to our new YouTube channel, Late Boomers, where you can see us on video now. This is all going to be on visual. We hope our podcast content is bringing you joy and inspiring you. And you can write to us on our website, lateboomers.biz, B-I-Z. Thanks so much for listening. And please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Thanks, Mary. It's been a lot of
Thank you,
fun.
Kathy.
Thank you for joining us on Late Boomers, the podcast that is your guide to creating a third act with style, power, and impact. Please visit our website and get in touch with us at lateboomers.biz. If you would like to listen to or download other episodes of Late Boomers, go to ewnpodcastnetwork.com.
This podcast is also available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and most other major podcast sites. We hope you make use of the wisdom you've gained here and that you enjoy a successful third act with your own style, power, and impact.